everybody. We are doing our first assignment on symmetry. This is by Ciera, Romanow, Kenzie, Balon, Taya, McKersie, and Madison, Riddell. The history of symmetry. The term symmetry comes from the Greek word sun, which also means with or together, and metron, which also means measurement. This word then quickly progressed further to mean an evenly divided object into two parts, also known as a mirrored image. This can be when an object is moved, flipped, or even rotated. An example of symmetry is on the bottom left-hand corner, and there can be a vertical line of symmetry, a horizontal line of symmetry, and also a diagonal line of symmetry. And then the pictures on the right-hand side are examples of non-symmetrical. These are also known as asymmetrical objects, and they cannot be divided evenly on both sides. Next, there are different types of symmetry. In the top left corner, there's a transitional symmetry. This is when an object is moved from one position to another. This is basically sliding an object forward or backwards from a spot. Then the bottom left-hand corner is rotational symmetry. This is when an object is rotated or turned in a specific direction around a certain point. On the top right-hand corner, there's reflection or reflective symmetry. This is when an object reflects the other half of the object. This is also known as the line of symmetry or a mirrored symmetrical object. And then the bottom right-hand corner is gliding symmetry. This is a combination between reflective and transitional symmetry. All these types of symmetry can also have multiple lines, either one line of symmetry, two lines of symmetry, three lines of symmetry, four lines of symmetry, or even infinite lines of symmetry, as long as it can be divided evenly within the object. Next, we have some inquiry questions that you could ask your students. What are different ways symmetry is used in the world? How can we identify what type of symmetry an object is? Are there letters in the alphabet that are symmetrical? How can we tell if an object is symmetrical? And what are different objects we see in our everyday life that are symmetrical? And we chose this topic because we didn't really remember learning about symmetry in school. Therefore, we took this opportunity to expand our knowledge on this topic. We were eager to learn more about symmetry as well as how to teach it. This project has helped us be more confident about this topic.
Now we have common errors and misconceptions. So an error or misconception, students may think something looks symmetrical but isn't, and a suggested strategy on that misconception is to take the time to measure the shape or object to see if it is mathematically symmetrical or not. Another one is students might start to get the idea that everything around them is symmetrical. A strategy for that is to show real-life examples of shapes or objects that are not in fact symmetrical. And another error misconception is that students could measure a shape incorrectly and believe it is symmetrical or vice versa. So students will just have to double check their measurements and measure multiple times.
Next, we're looking at the connections to the curriculums. So we found a couple in the grade 4 outcome, the grade 5 outcome, and the grade 6 outcome. Most of them looking at, again, those 2D shapes and identifying, creating, and analyzing those single transformations like we talked about before. So like our translations and our gliding ones and all of that stuff. You're also looking at creating symmetrical 2D shapes, identifying them, describing them, performing them, kind of looking at where we can see those in our world around us. We decided to focus on the grade 4 outcome as that is when it's first introduced by using the word symmetry in our curriculum. So if you take a look at SS 4.4, you can demonstrate an understanding of line of symmetry by identifying symmetrical 2D shapes, creating symmetrical 2D shapes, or drawing one or more lines of symmetry in a 2D shape. So if you're looking at kind of those indicators, those all relate to one of those. So I'll read a couple of those that are listed. Identify the characteristics of given symmetrical and non-symmetrical 2D shapes. There's also things like explain how symmetry and fractions are related. as well as create a symmetrical shape with and without manipulatives. So if you skip to the next slide here, it says grade 4. So these are kind of the ways that you can relate those to those indicators from that outcome. So we have show your students different examples of symmetrical and non-symmetrical shapes, ask them what characteristics or things they see that make shapes unsymmetrical and non-symmetrical. Use the pegboard to create different symmetrical shapes. I also linked an online version of that pegboard on the bottom left there, which I thought was a really neat tool for you to use. There's also discuss the different lines and types of symmetry and what they look like, so you could kind of explain how you did that like before in our PowerPoint, and then have a variety of different activities, including hands-on ones that they could further their learning.
A resource for the classroom to teach symmetry would be a picture book called Seeing Symmetry by Lauren Leedy. In this book, it gives many great examples of symmetry in everyday life. This is a book that would be great to show students when first introducing symmetry, as it can help them identify that it is something that is seen in many things in life other than math. This book also helps explain in a simplified way what a symmetry is. Another resource is What is Symmetry? In this article, it helps explain different types of symmetry. Within the article, it also includes examples of these different symmetries to help have a better understanding of why symmetry is important. It explains how symmetry is used in many different professions and in everyday life through patterns and objects. Resource 3 is Symmetry and Lines of Symmetry, an introduction. In this article, it helps explain symmetry and lines. Depending on the shape of something, it could have one line through the middle horizontally or vertically and reflect the other side. Another shape could be symmetrical on all 4 sides if you were to put 2 lines on the shape. With this resource, it helps to explain reflections and gives examples of shapes that are symmetrical, not just with one line through it, but with many. It also goes on to explain the different types of symmetry and how these lines connect to what type of symmetry a shape is.
So then when we just looking at integrating symmetry and like looking about this from a math point of view, we just had a couple of things like we found a quote that explains something we had not thought about before, which was it creates patterns that help us organize our world conceptually. So just looking at how the things around us are kind of organized and if things around us are supposed to be symmetrical or not. Another one was symmetry is in many ways things around us, whether we realize it or not. So that's again kind of relating to that first one, just visualizing the things around us. Most of the time people do not realize that it is symmetry that we see. And then another one was using physical objects like paper to help them see how it is symmetrical, being able to do that hands-on and stuff. So that's going to help them also gain that understanding for them.
And lastly, we just have a reflection. This assignment has changed our understandings of the mathematical phenomena symmetry because we now realize how connected nature and the world is to mathematics. We see symmetry on a daily basis. This has become apparent to us as there is symmetry in snowflakes, insects, animals, humans, and almost everything you look at. And then lastly is just our reference page. Thank you.